During the golden age of the Roman Empire, one man stood apart from the rest. He was a man, yet he defeated his enemies not with his weapon, but with his silence and intellect. He held no sword. His voice was not a battle cry, yet he was something beyond even an emperor. He was a thinker. He was a sage. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he was the quietest storm in the history of wisdom, the quietest but most destructive storm. His writings are still alive hundreds of years later. Despite the passage of time, they retain their value as they did on the first day. But there is something you don't know. Marcus didn't write everything. We assume he put all his thoughts on paper, but some were left out. He deliberately concealed certain thoughts. They were hidden because they were not meant to fall into the hands of others, because those thoughts were dangerous enough to shake the foundations of Rome. By order of the Senate, some sections were lost, some lines were burned, some ideas were branded as dangerous teachings. In this way, attempts were made to erase the meanings carried by these thoughts. But no fire can burn the truth forever. No darkness can cover the truth forever, because wisdom breathes even beneath the ashes. It lives everywhere and waits for the right moment to come. Marcus Aurelius' lost thoughts were of a kind that ordinary people could not understand. At first glance, they might seem meaningless or too simple, but there were aspects to them that people failed to notice. They were looking at freedom, death, silence, and the dark side of human nature. It reflected them. For Rome, these ideas were a threat, but for humanity an awakening. And now, you will hear those 5 forbidden thoughts, those whispers kept secret for centuries, for the first time. Perhaps you will hear these thoughts for the first time in this video. So get ready and sit back. I want to warn you before we begin. These ideas will not comfort you. They will shake you, because this is not motivation. This is the naked truth. The truth being shown to you. Marcus himself could only write these words in his notebook, because he knew too. Some truths are not meant for everyone, only for those who are ready. If spoken to those who aren't ready, no one can bear the consequences. The Roman people weren't ready, but maybe you are ready? One of Marcus Aurelius' most dangerous thoughts was an idea that the Roman Senate had tried to conceal for centuries. Do not tell everyone the truth, because not everyone can bear the truth. This sentence was too heavy to come from the mouth of an emperor. Not every person could bear this burden, because Marcus knew truth creates madness in weak people. But sometimes silence is not a form of evil. It is a form of virtue. Marcus knew this very well. That's why every morning, he would walk for an hour without speaking to anyone, just thinking. This was his mental sanctuary. In silence, he renewed his morality and purified his thoughts. One day, when one of his generals asked, "Why are you silent, my emperor?" Marcus simply replied, "Because my words belong not to me, but to Rome. My silence, however, is still mine. Instead of strengthening them, it would shake them even more. If you show someone the truth before their time, that light will not enlighten them, ... It will blind them." The Roman people were accustomed to spectacles, bloodshed, laughter. These things now seemed normal to them, but they were not ready to face the darkness of their own minds. They did not even want to hear their own truths. Marcus saw this every day. While speeches were made in the Senate, while generals shouted victory cries, he just remained silent, because he knew the truth is not for the masses. The truth is carried on the shoulders of those who think quietly. That's why he always chose to remain silent. That's why his notebooks were not open to the public. Meditations, that is, thoughts to myself, were not actually written to be published. Marcus wrote them so that no one would hear them. He didn't want anyone to know the thoughts in them, because some of the thoughts inside could crack even the stone walls of Rome. One of those thoughts was this: a person's duty is not to wake everyone else up, but to wake up from their own sleep first. A person cannot wake someone else up without first waking up from their own sleep. The Senate feared such statements. It couldn't even tolerate hearing such statements. Because such words ignited the independence within people, they would detach people from the state and turn them into completely free-thinking individuals. And a free-thinking individual remains under no power's command, does not submit to anyone's yoke. No one has the power to do that. It was not the barbarians who destroyed Rome. They did not have the power to destroy Rome. It was the Romans themselves who forgot how to think, who destroyed Rome. In fact, it was those who lived there for years who destroyed Rome. Marcus saw this, but they wanted to silence him. They silenced his words. If the emperor speaks, the people will follow him, they said. But Marcus's answer was silent, because sometimes the only way to protect the truth is to hide it, to cover it up. In every age, people make the same mistake. They think knowledge benefits everyone, but wisdom is a fire. If your heart is weak, that fire won't warm you. It will burn you. Marcus knew this. That's why he shared the truth only with himself. The same danger persists today. People are curious to hear, not to understand. They listen to information, but they don't think about it. Every idea becomes entertainment. Every lesson a show. And when you remain silent, they think you are indifferent. But you know too, silence is not indifference ... It is awareness. Marcus' forbidden thought was this: truth can only be understood with a silent mind, and silent minds are rare. Therefore, think before you speak, live before you share. Because sometimes a sentence is more dangerous than a lifetime. One day, when the people of Rome asked him why he was silent, Marcus only smiled, because he knew. What they wanted to hear was not the same as what he knew. Telling everyone the truth is not doing them a favor. Some truths, when spoken, do not set people free. They shatter them. That is why Marcus wrote, but did not share. He learned, but did not teach. He loved, but did not attach himself. Because some truths are not meant for the masses. They only resonate in the hearts of those who are ready. And if one day you too wish to reach the truth, remember Marcus's words. If you want to understand how true something is, you must feel it, not hear it. The truth whispers in silence. But only those who are truly ready can hear that voice. The Roman people worshipped suffering. They were deeply attached to it. To them, suffering united. Shared suffering strengthened society. It made society unshakable. But Marcus Aurelius rejected this idea, and so his second thought was forbiddance. Suffering does not unite people, it strips away their masks. Because Marcus knew, unity is born not from happiness, but from self-interest. And when pain comes, masks fall, and everyone is left with their own truth. Marcus knew, but he couldn't say it. In those years, the Roman Senate glorified pain. They declared those who died in battle heroes, and slaves examples of patience. This normalized the situation for people. But Marcus saw the rot behind those fancy words. To him, pain strengthened the virtuous, but it disfigured the weak, because pain reveals what is inside a person. And most people's insides are not as noble as we think. If everyone's inner self were noble, there would be no value in nobility. Pain teaches, they say. Pain does not teach. It only reminds us who we truly are. Pain is a harsh teacher that reminds us of this. He saw this truth on the battlefield. Some wounded soldiers endured silently. Others screamed and blamed others. Pain immediately revealed who was wise and who was wretched. That is why Marcus's second forbidden thought was dangerous for Rome, because that thought shattered a myth sacred to the people. The lie that pain unites us. According to him, pain does not unite people. It keeps them sober. Because shared pain does not create a shared spirit. It only breeds crowds sharing the same fear. And crowds united by fear always create a new tyrant. In Marcus's eyes, societies that worship pain cannot be free, because those who give meaning to pain make the tyrant's job easier. Accepting pain is wisdom, but sanctifying it is slavery. Even today, we make the same mistake. We romanticize pain. We say, adversity made me who I am, but we are merely hiding our brokenness. According to Marcus, pain does not mature a person. It merely strips them bare. True strength lies not in sanctifying pain, but in enduring it without understanding it. The Romang Senate was furious when they heard this idea, because what Marcus said threatened the order. If the people understood that pain was not sacred, they would no longer volunteer for war, nor consider dying for the interests of the rich and honor. That's why that idea was silenced. But Marcus wrote it down in his notebook like this: pain unites the weak and separates the strong. Because the strong person does not mourn the crowd, they repair their own silence. When you experience pain today, think like Marcus. Does this pain bring you closer to others? Or does it remind you of who you are? Because pain is neither a teacher nor an enemy. It is merely a mirror. And if what you see in that mirror frightens you, then that is when you are truly growing. This was Marcus Aurelius' second forbidden thought. Pain does not unite us. It separates us. And from that separation, the true self is born. Pain does not purify the soul. It only reveals who is impure. It is like a mirror that reveals the truth, and not everyone can look into that mirror. Rome was a city that worshipped words. Every word spoken echoed throughout the city. Every thought was voiced aloud, every idea debated in the arena. But Marcus Aurelius remained silent amid the clamor. He remained silent in every setting, thus confronting his inner world. And that silence became the most dangerous idea in Rome, because the third forbidden thought was this: true virtue lies not in speaking, but in knowing when to be silent. Every living thing spoke. What set humans apart from other creatures was their ability to be silent and to battle their inner world. For the Romang Senate, this sentence was an insult. Because their power came from speech, they drew their power from their speeches. They believed that the louder they spoke, the more the people would obey them. Oratory was the politician's weapon. But Marcus had noticed something else. The more a person spoke, the less they thought. A person who thought little spoke idly, and that speech benefited no one. In his eyes, virtue was proven not by words, but by actions. He did not proclaim himself a virtuous man. A man who proclaims his virtue is no longer virtuous, he wrote in his notebook one night, because virtue is a silent power. It is not shown, only felt. In Marcus's time, people marketed their virtues. They declared themselves honest, brave, or loyal. But he knew true courage lies not in labels, but in silent choices. The moment a soldier remains silent as he dies is louder than 1,000 speeches. The second a leader swallows his anger is worth more than 100 speeches. Marcus' silence became a threat to Rome, because that silence echoed the lies of others. Even the presence of a silent person disturbs those who live loudly, and Rome was a city that lived loudly. It was easy to appear virtuous because everyone was watching. But according to Marcus, the real test began when no one was looking. He who cannot do good in secret cannot truly do good. Virtue is a silent act, because a good person does not want what they do to be noticed. They simply do what is right and move on. That is why Marcus' silence was a lesson in morality. He was like a teacher who spoke not with words, but with his stance. Today, we still make the same mistake. When we do good, we want to share it. When we show virtue, we want to boast about it. But virtue is an art without applause. The more you wait for applause, the more what you do becomes a show, and the show kills virtue. Marcus' third forbidden thought was dangerous for this reason, because the Roman people did not want to see the difference between appearing virtuous and being virtuous. His silence held up a mirror to everyone's conscience. They say evil grows in silence. These words were his true power, because as words multiply, the essence is lost, but silence gives birth to the essence anew. Before you say anything today, remember Marcus's law. Not every word elevates you. Some just add noise. If you want to be virtuous, be silent, because silence is when the soul speaks its own language. Virtue weakens when it is spoken of. When lived, it becomes eternal. In Rome, kindness was a show, a sign that people put on display. Generals distributed gold to the people. Politicians promised freedom to slaves. Everyone did good deeds, but no one was good. Everyone behaved this way, not because it came from within, but because it was expected. Marcus Aurelius saw this, and he wrote his fourth prohibition. Kindness is not for everyone, because not everyone deserves kindness. If you do kindness to someone who doesn't deserve it, you will only see evil from them. This sentence angered the Roman Senate, because Marcus was saying something that the people did not like. This thought was a word against the government, because the government was constantly doing good to everyone. Most people think they deserve good, but according to Marcus, the value of goodness is lost when it is offered to everyone. Goodness, when given foolishly, turns into evil, he wrote. In his view, a wise person does not help everyone, only those who will benefit from the help. Otherwise, the kindness done has no value, because doing kindness to someone who does not deserve it only feeds evil. It strengthens it. Then it strikes you at the first opportunity. Marcus experienced this every day in the palace. Hundreds of people approached him, asking for help, offering gifts. But he was a very wise emperor. He could immediately tell who was honest. When he saw greed instead of gratitude in someone's eyes, he would quietly walk away. He never got angry with people. He didn't punish them. He just withdrew his kindness. By not doing good, he actually prevented evil. The Roman Senate feared this idea, because what Marcus said was destroying their order. It was contrary to the idea they called the foundation of their state. The Senate portrayed the people as equal, but in reality, it used them. Marcus, however, said, "Equality is measured by intention, not status." This statement was too dangerous, even for an emperor, because it revealed a truth that would upset people. Not everyone is good, and therefore, not everyone deserves kindness. For Marcus, goodness was not a habit, but a responsibility. Before helping someone, he would ask himself 3 questions. Will this person learn something from the help? Will I nourish their spirit, or just their weakness? If I don't help, will I betray my own values? If the answer to the third question was no, he wouldn't help. Because for Marcus, kindness was not an emotional response, but a rational decision. In his view, emotional kindness is short-lived, but wise kindness is eternal. One day, when his close friend Claudius asked him, "Why should kindness be limited?" Marcus replied, "Because kindness without limits ultimately protects the oppressor." This was at the core of his morality. Just as remaining silent in the face of evil was evil, so too was responding to evil with kindness. We are still under the same misconception today. We believe that doing good unconditionally is a virtue, but Marcus' warning still holds true. Unconditional goodness consumes you, and when you are consumed, evil grows. A flower does not send water to every root, he said somewhere, because some roots are rotten. That is why Marcus' fourth forbidden thought was burned, hidden, concealed, because that thought unmasked Rome. Behind the seemingly sacred virtue lay political interests. Marcus saw this, but he did not speak, because he knew true goodness is done in silence. If you are going to help someone, first weigh your intention. If your help will make them dependent, it is no longer kindness, because true kindness liberates. Any help that creates dependency is a weakness disguised as evil. Let us conclude with Marcus' words. Never forget to whom you have done kindness, but never forget why you did it. This was the essence of his morality. It revealed his understanding of morality, and those who did not understand that essence judged him without understanding him. But Marcus knew. True wisdom lies not in pleasing everyone, but in choosing what is right. And not everyone could know what was right. Marcus Aurelius' final and most dangerous thought was whispered about even after his death, because this thought shook not only Rome, it shook the entire belief system. Fate does not rule you. You permit fate to rule you. This sentence was an act of rebellion against the Roman Senate. It was contrary to their beliefs, because all of Rome's power came from telling people to submit to your fate. By making them submit to their fate, they made them do whatever they wanted. The gods, the priests, the politicians, they all put the same chain on the human spirit. This is your fate. Accept it. Be silent and never rebel. This is your fate. But Marcus noticed the end of the chain, and he broke it. In his eyes, fate was not a blind force. Fate was drawn for us by God, but it had a direction, and your attitude determined its course. You cannot choose the events that fate brings, but you can choose how you respond. This difference is what makes a slave an emperor. It turned those who did not understand this difference from emperors into slaves. Fate drags those without will, but it bows before the determined. No obstacle can stand before a determined person. When Marcus wrote this, even the Roman philosophers were disturbed, because these words reminded them of the divine power within man. They said that even a slave could be free in his mind. This idea was disastrous for Rome, and this idea was deadly for an empire ruled by chains. It would cause its demise. According to him, the soul carried a piece of the universe, and that piece should never bow to any external force. It is not chains that make man a slave, he would say. It is the mind that considers the chain sacred. If the mind sees that chain as destiny, it can never break it. He says, "This is my fate. I must submit to it," and so he does. But if he believes he can break those chains, if he says, "This is a power in my hands," then he becomes free. Marcus never forgot this principle, even in wars, betrayals, and on the brink of death. Even when he lost, the same calm expression remained on his face, because he ruled not events, but his own mind. One day, his closest friend Rusticus asked him, "How is it that you are still at peace amidst so much disaster?" Marcus smiled and replied, "Because I do not write my destiny, but I approve every line." It was this very statement that Rome feared, because this idea made every man an emperor. It rendered the Senate, the priests, even the voice of the gods unnecessary. Because in Marcus' philosophy, man's highest power was the ability to control his own soul. It is easy to blame fate, but according to Marcus, this is laziness of the soul. To say, "The gods did this to me," is the most elegant way to run away from oneself. But to say, "How will I respond to this?" that is the first step toward freedom. Fate tests you. It does not punish you. Everything that happens is not to pull you down, but to make you aware. That is why it constantly puts us to the test. But when difficulties arise, we get angry at the gods, the world, and people. Yet Marcus would say, the universe is not against you. It is only trying to complete you. Therefore, his fifth forbidden thought was not to reject fate, but to redefine it. Fate is not an external force. It is a consciousness born within. You cannot control an event, but you can choose who that event makes you. And that moment of choice is your true birth. One of Marcus's final lines was, "A person who can master their soul does not fear the order of the universe, because their order is already within them. That is why the Roman Senate hid that line, because that line was powerful enough to break the chains within the people. But history does not forgive silence. That thought was not hidden, it only waited. And now, it is in your hands. Today, Marcus' fifth forbidden thought still holds true. Don't surrender to your fate. Walk alongside it, but you determine its direction. Because we are not the owners of our fate, but we are the masters of our spirit. The universe shapes you, but you choose its form. Whatever shape you wish to take, the universe will mold you into it. And perhaps that is why Marcus Aurelius never lost a battle, because he had already won the victory before the battle began, within his own soul. When Marcus Aurelius died, Rome fell silent. But this silence was not mourning, it was an echo. For he was an emperor who spoke not with words, but with silence. With his silence, he commanded the mighty Roman army. With his silence, he brought many generals to their knees. What remained after him? Not a crown, not an army, not a palace, only a notebook. And in that notebook, the traces of a man's battle against his own soul. Marcus's thoughts were meant to be burned, hidden, distorted over time, because these thoughts broke chains. They said that an emperor drew his power not from the gods, but from his own consciousness. And this was unforgivable for Rome. But wisdom cannot be hidden, because wisdom seeps even beneath silence. It roams like the wind, passing behind walls. History forgets it, people reject it, but silence whispers it anew every morning. Marcus' legacy is not a philosophy, it is an awakening. He wanted to teach us that you cannot rule the world without ruling your mind. You cannot sit on any throne without ruling yourself. And you cannot win any war without being at peace with your soul. We still walk those Roman streets today, but the arenas are no longer stone, they are screens. Wars are fought not with spears, but with thoughts. And the enemy is no longer outside, it is within us. That is why Marcus' voice still echoes, master yourself. The rest will follow. True victory is no longer about defeating anyone. It's about understanding yourself. True freedom is not about breaking chains. It's about learning never to wear them in the first place. Marcus Aurelius left us this: a truth louder than the fall of an empire. The person who recognizes the power within silence never loses. Because silence is not cowardice. Silence is mastery, and those who understand it are never ruled. If this video was helpful to you, don't forget to subscribe and like it. Send this video to a friend so they can benefit from these words too. Now, Rome is gone today, but those ideas still live on. Because the true empire is not made of stone, it is made of awareness. And that empire is waiting to be built within you. He who rules himself rules the world. Marcus Aurelius.